Hello, this is Lisa Rusczk with the podcast We Are All Psychic. I don't usually talk about a podcast before the podcast. But the audio on this one really was rough, guys. So I put some reverb in it, so I hope that doesn't bother you. There is reverb on the audio. I had to do that to thicken up my side, and I was clipped out a lot because my microphone kept going in and out, in and out. Anyway, I'm not going to bore you with the audio problems we had, but this is what we have left. And I think it turned out great after a lot of work anyway. And to make it even more exciting for you guys and less obvious that I have reverb on that, I'm putting a ton of reverb on this. And then that reverb would be like nothing. Thank you guys. Hello, this is Lisa Rusczk with the podcast We Are All Psychic. And today we have Jeanne. I was going to say I dream of Jeanne instead of Jeanne. We have Jeanne here, listeners and watchers. This is a video on Spotify and YouTube. And Jeanne, would you like to say hello?
Hello, everyone. I'm delighted to be here with Lisa and her audience and meeting everybody. And we've been chatting ahead, and we've got some wonderful information to share with everyone.
Oh, we do, listeners and watchers, and I'm so excited. But Jeanne, I have a question for you right away. Okay. Think you're all psychic?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Not in the sense that some people think psychic is, which is the person that will take your money to tell you what your future is going to be. No, that's not
scammers on this podcast.
No, that's not the psychicism that I espouse to. But everything is energy and everything is vibration. And if you ever feel that you can read a person, you get a vibe from a person, you walk into a room, you don't feel comfortable, that's a psychic moment.
Yes. That's not a feeling. That's not an emotion. It's an energetic emotion or whatever you want to call it.
Right. And if you're uncomfortable, I'd say leave.
Yes. It's your intuition. And go. It's your mom's voice to your head. If it's your dad's voice, it's someone selling, and spirit guides are there. Everything's saying get. And so Jeanne says, if you feel that way, get.
Yes, definitely.
That's how we say in the South.
You know, it's the trust your first impression.
Yes.
Right? I mean, as women, we can probably all relate to this. And even the men that are listening, you meet somebody and your first impression is, I don't think so. One thing leads to another and you keep going. And you're like, damn, I should have trusted my first instinct.
Exactly. That is so true, especially with dating. They always trick us with the love bomb and it gets us every time. The love bomb.
Yeah.
So listeners and watchers, we have such a great topic, and I am so excited about this one. This is going to be great. Tell them what you're going to teach us about today.
Today I'm going to talk about why you should know your stars. And what I mean by knowing your stars, I mean knowing what your birth chart is and understanding the cosmic energies with which you were born, and seeing in your chart the evolutionary intention for your soul for this lifetime. The premise of what we'll be talking about is reincarnation. The topic is evolutionary astrology. This is not your typical astrology reading where we talk about what your character traits might be or put the fear of something in you that some ominous thing will happen. Evolutionary astrologers talk about, and I'm going to delve right into, because we've got a PowerPoint presentation, so I'll go there, Lisa, instead of talking off topic. And it's so interesting. I have a niece named Lisa, and I can hear my birth town roots when I say Lisa.
It makes me think of people when they're speaking in a British accent and they're English. They say Lisa because a lot of British people put an R at the end of A's.
Oh, do they? Okay, that's my British, my English DNA.
That's their cellular memory.
Oh, there's that. And so here we've got a screen share, and Lisa, you and I are up off here to the little side so people can keep seeing us. This is a PowerPoint presentation, folks. We're not going to go through everything. I've got it up in slide view just to keep it casual. But I'd like to share with you what evolutionary astrology is. Evolutionary astrology is the type of astrology that answers the question, why do I have the chart I have? Very interesting, right? Why did I choose that moment, that place to be born? Because you did.
Yeah.
We all do choose.
I agree. I agree. I think we choose what we are going through.
Yes.
There's not a lot of people like that. But I read the book Journey of Souls, and our first 2 seasons, we talked about the book a lot.
Oh, you did?
And and that was a big influence for me when I first read it, because that is what the spirits told me before I even read the book. And when I was working as a medium and I didn't know they were spirits, I thought they were novel characters that I was writing about, and I was just a little bit nutty. And then I read spirits when I read that book. It was real. It was like, all the told me,
There's a lot of energy out there. There's just the different vibrational realms, and there's things happening in all of them, and we don't see them, but we are energy beings. Energy is energy can never be destroyed. It can only be transmuted, right, into something different, which is part of evolutionary astrology. So in evolutionary astrology, we look at your birth chart. We look at how it aligns with your unique role in the universe. And I'm really passionate about one thing, Lisa, which is that children should know what their stars are. So every time, audience, when I say know your stars, I mean understand your astrology, your personal astrology. Imagine when you were younger. I know I can go back to when I was. I sure wish I knew what my unique role was in the universe.
Yeah. Listeners, can I interrupt you and let them know what you told me before the podcast?
Yes, anytime interrupt me.
Because I want to do this. Before the podcast, we had this lined up for about, we had to reschedule it, I think. Anyway, we were doing this, like going over my astrology she was teaching me about what she was going to show on the podcast. And I had told her that I've had a lot of jobs, but I've never been really successful with money as far as like make a lot of money at any of my jobs. But I've had a lot of businesses, I have a lot of interests, I do a lot of things. And she looked at my chart and within like 20 seconds said something nobody had ever said to me about the way my chart looks, which is in my 10th house, listeners and watchers. We've talked about it with other astrologers. I have my sun, my north node, not my north node, my
Thyroid.
That one. Jupiter, and my sun are in the 10th house, and the other one, the ascendant, not the ascendant, it wasn't
Midheaven.
Midheaven, that's it. That's the
Midheaven always is the cusp of the 10th house, yes.
That's right. You say that's okay. So she told me, she looked at that, and then she looked at the Pluto in my 3rd house and the 4th house, Uranus, and she says, you needed to have all these jobs and outlets to learn what you need to learn in these areas of your houses. And it was the exact opposite of my 10th house. And I thought
to heal the soul.
Heal the soul basically at the root core.
Right. Pluto being at the direct opposition. Pluto is, the lord of the underworld, right? And it's down there really by orb, we call it in your 4th house, Lisa, which is the house of inner psychology and roots and emotional development. So
that was just fascinating, listeners, because she nailed that. I've had everyone look at that. Every astrologer I've ever known, they have great ideas. They all have, but that one hit me so hard as the truth.
Beautiful.
The other one sounded right too, but that one was like the empirical truth, like underneath all those other truths I've heard. You know what I mean?
Thank you for that, Lisa. I mean, that's why I do what I do. I could say so much, but I'll leave it there because I want to give value to our listeners. And so, evolutionary astrology reveals the patterns guiding your growth and transformation. Just to look around the speaker here, yes, it illuminates your karmic soul intentions that you carried across lifetimes. We do that through certain points. But most important, when you know your stars, you're empowered to step fully into your life. You're empowered to stop the machinations in your head as to why does this always happen, and know that there's an evolutionary intention for it, and to move towards that North Star, the North Node. So this is what evolutionary astrology is. And what I'd like to teach people is why they should know their stars, I think I covered that enough. We're going to skip around a bit because we want to get to the essence of this. For folks that are not familiar with astrology, I would bet probably everybody is here, but maybe you weren't aware of the fact that astrology goes back to before recorded time. You know, the first evidence of it in ancient Mesopotamia, through various conquests and church and, you know, Copernicus and Descartes and all of this history, and it fell underground. Only kings and queens would have it. So there's quite a storied history with astrology, but it's come back into contemporary use, and it's very big amongst the Gen Z. 70% of Gen Zs believe in astrology, and I'm very happy to hear that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
They know their Venus and their Mars, and from what I can tell on TikTok.
Absolutely. So, then I'm going to spend time here, Lisa. Okay. Astrology is a primer. So as I said, this is a presentation that I do at various organizations. I'd be delighted to do for any organization that's listening in. The goal here is to teach enough about astrology so that when you work with an astrologer, and please make sure it's an evolutionary astrologer for the full impact, so that when you work with that astrologer, you know enough about the language so you can concentrate on what's being said, as opposed to getting bamboozled by all the
terms you've never heard. Yeah.
Things you never heard of, right? And I want to start by pointing this out. The birth chart doesn't guarantee any single outcome. It doesn't. It does not predict it's not fated. You have free will. It doesn't tell you how things are going to turn out because you have free will, but it does represent a spectrum of possibilities, and I'll leave it at that.
I love that.
We come into, I can get really excited and carry away, and then we have
I'm all geeky now.
Then we have no value
anymore. Like here, never need to sit here and keep doing this all night.
Walt Disney is the birth chart that we're looking at right here. So probably everybody knows who Walt Disney is. He's the creator of the Magic Kingdom, right? And so I use his wheel not to talk about his astrology, but to show how the wheel works.
Yes.
Your birth chart is a circle, 360 degrees. It is divided into 12 segments. We call those segments houses. And each house is, at the beginning of each house and the end of each house is like a spoke in the wheel. If you can see, hopefully, can you see my cursor moving here?
Your cursor just fine.
Wonderful. So the beginning and the end of a house, the spokes in the wheel. It's important. What people get confused with, first of all, is the houses, the whole house language, right?
Yeah, and once I had it broken down that the house is kind of the same as the zodiac sign, like as the first house is like Aries, second house is like Taurus, third house.
Only if you're born with an Aries rising.
I just, as a general kind of.
Oh, yes, a general, yes, if you were born with an Aries rising.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, that's just, when someone explains to me, that's a.
You are right, Lisa. You are right.
It's like a simple, easy way to remember that helped me so much.
The first house is naturally ruled by the sign Aries. That is true. It is the self. And what I'd like to point out, because the wheel, it's like getting your eyes tested, and they're always turning all these things.
Like, go slower too.
A lot of things in the wheel move, but the houses never do. So the first house is always going to be where the first house is, the second house, the third house, the fourth house. They're always going to just be where they are. And the houses represent the rooms in your life where stories unfold. It's the area of your life where the story will unfold. And we're for that particular house purpose.
Yeah.
All right. The zodiac signs, and these are the outer glyphs that we see, they represent your unique style, your vibe, your cosmic flair. They color that house with that.
Okay.
Now, the important thing here is the ascendant, the rising sign. The rising sign is the zodiac sign that was on the horizon at the moment of your birth. And it establishes everything in your chart. It is your chart's front door. It's the first impression of you when people see you. It's the stained glass window through which you shine. Verbiage from my mentor and teacher, Stephen Forrest, at the Evolutionary School of Astrology. And so Walt Disney was born with a Virgo. But that aside, Virgo is always followed by Libra on the zodiac wheel, is always followed by Scorpio, Sagittarius. So once the first zodiac sign is established on your first house cusp, which is your ascendant, all the signs follow, right? Now, there's some nuance thing called intercepted houses. I'm not going to talk for those, but they'll follow along. The planets, then, are these other symbols that we see. So here's the sun down here in the third house in the sign of Sagittarius. And the sun in the third house means something, of course, but all the planets have a purpose. What they are looking to do for the soul's evolution, they will do through that house. They must be doing it through that house energy. So they're the energetic players that shape your life script. They're like the actors on the stage. Now, you can see some houses don't have planets. That does not mean that those houses aren't activated. They very much are. They're just not powerful from a core chart perspective. But what happens in life is the sky is always changing. The planets are always moving and changing. So later on, time permitting, we can talk about something like the changing sky. Planets will move through his sixth house or the seventh house that had nothing at birth.
Yes.
This is the essence of what it looks like, what the wheel means. Now, I want to stay here for a moment to talk about the middle part, Lisa.
Okay.
This is the important part of the chart.
The numbers in the circle.
The reds in the blue lines. I love the circle, the aspects. The aspects. So the aspects are the energetic connections between the planets and key angles in the chart, all right, such as the ascendant or the midheaven, key angles in the chart.
Okay.
And where we see red, they represent, in this example here, because I only work with the Ptolemaic aspects, that's what you're seeing here. They represent oppositions and squares, which, oppositions, something is blocking that energy from coming forward into its higher self, its higher road. So there's a blockage there. And square creates the friction. It's the reds, the oppositions and the frictions that force the soul to evolve. If the individual knows what they are, knows what the high road is, knows what the low road is, it's so much easier to stay in the low road and repeat these conditions of life over and over again. Harder to take the high road. But it's important to understand what the high roads are of your squares and your oppositions. These are the lessons for the soul in this lifetime.
Yeah.
The blues represent trines, like that triangle there, and sextiles. Okay. Now, they're supportive energies. There are no, and I want to say this, there are no bad, there are no good. And so it's, we all have the aspects we are supposed to have for this lifetime, the ones that we chose, right? So these are the core predicament. When we look at the birth chart, these are the core predicament that an individual is in. What are the energies that we're dealing with in this lifetime? They're always going to be there. All right? So that was important. Kind of cool, Lisa?
Yeah, that's rad.
Okay. Now, take a snapshot in your mind, picture here, this is Walt Disney, just a visual. Where's his planets, where are these aspects?
How like Capricorn? Or is that in Sagittarius? What are those in? Sagittarius or Capricorn?
All of this here?
Yeah, what's that mess? It's Capricorn.
Capricorn.
Okay, yeah.
He was destined to do a great work.
Imagination he had.
He had a wonderful
all that Capricorn. Capricorns have huge imaginations. They just don't show it. They work so hard, they know how to do it. They can problem solve like masters,
Yes.
Imagination does that.
Yeah, I'm looking around the camera. He was very, very interesting. Well, if we want to talk about imagination, here you go, Lisa. Neptune,
yeah.
The planet of spirituality and imagination at 0 degrees of Cancer, the healing sign, the sign of, the psychic, right? But in his 10th house of career. So he brought his imagination out to the world. But look at his midheaven is in the sign of Gemini, which is all about perception and communicating in air. And,
on air.
On air. I mean, he started with his cartoons, drawing cartoons.
Yeah.
Right. And look, very, very Gemini. And, over here in his 9th house, which is the 9th house is the house of the teacher. It's also the house of the student, but it's the house of the philosopher and the seeker. And we find Pluto in the sign of Gemini. Transformation. Transforming what the world believed is how I would read that. And didn't he do that with magic?
He did.
We all saw magic.
Imagination is the magic. And he used to do it. I think.
Wonderful man. Now, we go forward here, and I bring up 2 more charts. Oprah.
Steve Jobs and Oprah.
Steve Jobs and Oprah. So we take a look at Oprah now. Oprah, her 10th house is in the sign of Libra. It's all about harmony and relationships. And she's got Neptune up there. But what Oprah had, which was really very interesting, is what we call a grand trine.
Okay.
In the air sign.
I see.
Okay. You see it? So Libra's an air sign, touching on Aquarius. Okay, look at all this Aquarian energy. It's all about being unique. She would make money being unique and how she influenced the world. And very, and here's Jupiter and Gemini in the 6th house. She's a very hard worker. And it was all about communication with her. It really, really interesting. So just for the audience, you can see how unique these folks are.
Yeah.
You are as unique as they are.
You are.
You are. Now we take a look at Steve Jobs. A lot more going on here.
Got a lot of blue.
He had a lot of blue, and he had a lot of reds, and he had a lot of everything going on. A tremendous amount of aspects.
Reminds me of palmistry. Palmistry I was my first, and it's all the terms for palmistry are astrological terms. And you look at palms, and they're just like mine. There's just a few basic lines, and some palms just have scribbles all over. That's what's supposed to remind me of.
I tried to read my palms once, and I just know that they're old soul hands.
You will have to get you to take a picture of your palms for me, and I'll read them.
Oh, I'm happy to do that. And so Steve had a lot of Cancer energy up in his 10th house, and very much Gemini. And didn't he create a lot of healing in the world when he brought out all of these Apple products? Right, really changed things up, and it was communication certainly. Anyways, we'll leave those folks. We'll continue on, okay? Lisa, ask me any questions as we go. There's just 2 or 3 more slides that we'll go through. Now I come into the zodiac signs. So we talked about how they color the house. The role of the astrologer is to take all of this and integrate it into something meaningful for the client. And in evolutionary astrology, it's very much spiritual astrology. We're looking at, and we're reading the symbols. I'm a metaphysician, also trained metaphysician. I know to step my perspective back because astrologers can tend to color like all of us. We bring our stuff to the table, right? So I've got to step my perspective back, and I've got to read the symbols only. And so we talk about the zodiac signs. If a person is born with the sun and Aries, they're the warrior. And so let me talk about the sun for a moment. The sun is the center of your universe. It's always going to be. Now, one of the things that's given astrology a bad rap is the magazine sun sign. You look up and you say, well, I'm a Leo, and that doesn't sound like me. That's not happening this moon. Well, that's why it gives the bad rap. Of course it's not, because what house is your sun in? What sign is your sun in? And what are the aspects you were born with? And by the way, what's going on in the sky today that's influencing those aspects you were born with? That all colors and has to be integrated into what's happening in your lifetime at a particular moment. And one of my great lines that I've received through Pam Gregory Astrology. She's very, very, Pam Gregory, yeah. And so Pam Gregory, she talks about the weather. And so we can't know what's going to happen because of the energy, but we can tell you how you should dress, right? And so here are the various zodiac signs that, folks looking on, if you know some things about your chart, you can certainly read up on those. And one of the things I love is the key words, I am. And so these words, Lisa, you can equate with the houses. They will always be that. So a sun, Aries, I am. The first house is I am, the I am house. The second house is I have. Gemini, I think. Cancer, I feel. Leo, I'm a sun sign Leo. I will. And all the way down in Pisces, I dream and I believe. So these are very definitely, if your sun sign is any one of these, this is your radiant core. A Cancer sun feels everything. Okay? So each sign describes a style of meeting life's challenges and opportunities, and they're symbolic guides helping you understand your evolving self and how to interact with the world. So those are the signs. Now, the houses. So the houses, here we are. As I said, the houses will never shift. But if we take a look at the first house, and we learned of Walt Disney having Virgo on the cusp of the first house, he appeared to the world. And I even think Steve Jobs had the Virgo. Yes, but Steve Jobs too had that Virgo rising. And that's interesting about these two folks. So they appeared to be perfectionists, and they both were. They both were very hard workers. Your mic is off, Lisa.
Can you hear me now? I was wondering, because earlier I was saying something. You kept...
I couldn't, yeah.
But why? I didn't know what the reason was. You can now, though?
Yes.
We're good. Okay.
Yes. Did you want to share something?
Oh, my brother is a Virgo. I was going to say, and he's an achiever. But I would say like it was perfection. Maybe when he was younger was a struggle. Watching him as a Virgo and many other Virgos I've seen, there is a perfectionism. But like you said, there's so much more with the rest of the chart. But also, I think they're so creative. A Virgo is a very creative. And this never really talked about. They're such idealistic people. They want to express that idealism and their creativity.
Mm-hmm. I have 4 planets in Virgo and 6 planets in the 6th house, which is ruled by Virgo. So yeah, I'm...
You got that. Oh, do you think?
I got it. But anyways, there's a lot to be said about Virgo. But what Virgos love is day to day, the routine of day to day.
Sure.
Virgos love routine. And so we can see all the different houses. So it's very important to understand where your planets fall, what aspects are being formed to the houses. Each house holds a unique soul lesson or challenge. So what's going on in your different houses, right? The planets, as they land in the houses, add the cosmic energy and influence as to how that area of your life will be lived out.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, the planets are fun because they are the actors. They're the cosmic guides.
Yeah.
Each planet shines uniquely through its zodiac signs energy. So this is where the integration comes in. The moon is all about the emotional tides, intuition. Now, if a person's moon happens to be in Cancer, which rules the moon, this is going to be really amped up. Now, this is water, right? But if the person's moon happens to be in an earth sign, it's not going to be so.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
Mine's in Capricorn. My moon is in.
Yes, absolutely. Mine's in Virgo, so it's going to be more earth-based.
Yeah.
Right? We're not going to be so emotionally swept away by the tides. But you have a rising sign in Cancer.
I am emotional, but I don't feel good about it.
Makes you very psychic.
Yeah. But the Capricorn moon's like, I don't like being emotional. Shush.
And I remember it's in your 6th house too.
Yeah.
Of work and day-to-day habits. And the 6th house is much more than that. Virgo is much more than that. Virgo is the sign of the mentor and the mentee.
Yeah.
Right? So the Virgo is going to evolve into being a mentor, especially a Capricorn in the 6th house, mentoring others in the lifetime.
Dang, that's what I love doing.
As we go on, elderhood is very important, and we're all going to get there. We're all going to get there, God willing. And so the planet's house placement spotlights the key area of life, and it's all about the cosmic story. So we leave that there. I wanted to talk I talked about the aspects, the things that are in the middle of the circle, and how they work. So I can leave that off. Just in the consideration of time, I'd like to talk about life's predictable phases because they are predictable. And so for our listeners and our viewers, when you know your stars, you know what's coming. The stars will play. The music, Pam Gregory, in her book, her first book, talks about how the music will play, whether you know it's playing or not, and it will play. But when you know that, for example, you happen to be 33 years old, 34 years old, things aren't looking so great. But hey, you know what? Let's dry our tears. Okay, there's a cycle of opportunity coming. Let's get ready for that. And so in my evolutionary astrology work and in my soul purpose consultation with my clients, I use astrology a lot. And what I'm looking at is what is your soul intention for the lifetime? Let's bring it down to 3D and understand how you're going to make that appear in the lifetime. Let's talk about the aspects and what are the conditions that you're working with. And let's understand the big waves that are coming. Let's look for that next Jupiter wave. It's a cycle of opportunity. We want to be ready for that. So if you're planning on doing a big thing that you've always wanted to do, let's look for when that Jupiter energy is going to support you. Saturn. Saturn is the cycle of identity. Everybody, if you've not been through it yet, you'll remember it later on. At the age of 29, 30.
You will.
31, first Saturn return. First Saturn return is when we realize that we're an adult.
Yes.
Whether it's good or bad.
Yes.
It's time to
play it.
Huh?
That's a good way of putting it. You're an adult.
You're an adult. And then by the time you reach 59, 60, you start to see that you're no longer striving. It's funny, the soul just goes there. You're no longer striving to build and compete. And you're looking your soul is looking towards the elderhood now. You're in the midlife. So now what do we do with this? Who am I now? I'm not that 40-year-old person. I'm not that 45-year-old person. A lot of times, this is the midlife crisis.
Yeah.
All the red Porsche and all the crazy things that happen. It's a new cycle of identity. And so when we know that that's coming and we can understand all the machinations of our unique birth chart as to how that might play out in terms of cosmic weather, we're better able to deal with it because it's going to happen. Uranus, we can see these years here. It's a cycle of individuality. And so it's a time when we strike out it's kind of like when you're 7 and you want to be 10 already so you can make your own rules.
I was like that.
You're screaming for a cycle of individuality. And remember back to 14, parents freak out about, the teens. Because the age of 14 sits right in the middle of it. That's the first cycle of individuality. And the interesting thing about these phases, I should talk about something in astrology we call orbs, ORBS. So they're cycles of influence.
Okay.
So let's say that you're 12 years old and your parents are noticing you're not this little child anymore, and you're screaming for different things now, and you want to be your own person. That Uranus cycle is coming into orb to exactness. It'll happen at the age of 14. And so it's ramping up, and then it'll dissipate. And if it's done well, if the parents understand this, and this is why parents should know their children's astrology, if the parents understand this, they're better able to cruise through that cycle of individuality with their teenager. Because the teenager is going to strike out. And the more you try to hold them back from becoming an individual, the more they will strike out. Anybody will. It's human nature. It is essentially freedom.
Yeah, and parents need all the help they can get. So what you're saying is a great.
Yes, it really is freedom. And you can think about the age of 21, the age of 28, at 42. I mean, I charted my whole life, of course, and I did it, and I fell more in love with the art and the craft that I practiced because it is true.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe what I saw.
So cool.
It was so cool. I wish I'd done it long. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. But anyways, I'm able to do it now. So I can see what's coming forward. But Neptune is the cycle of spirituality. And we come into this at the age of 28, 41. However a person defines spirituality. But it is a cycle within which there's a recollection. There's a coming back to the fact that there's something more to the physical.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that happens at those ages. And Pluto's got the longest orbit, right? So 248 years to turn around, and the sun. And so really by the time we're in our 40s, early 40s, in 62-ish, because of the elliptical orb of Pluto, we can't hone it in. But these are interesting times. It's a cycle of destiny. So the 40s, if you take a look at the 40s for all of our listeners and viewers, it's a big time. So depending on...
And it is in numerology as well.
Yes. And Lisa, that brings me to this, right? It's all tied together.
It is. They all work together.
They all work together. Astrology is a language that has come down to us since before ancient times.
I agree.
And so it's a language.
Consider ancient time.
That's right. It's a way to know our psyche like no other way you can. So Carl Jung, the famous psychologist of the 20th century, right? If I get my centuries right. At any rate, Carl Jung was a student of Sigmund Freud, sort of the founder of modern psychology or psychology. And they had a falling out. And it was really a falling out around Jung's belief in the archetypes of the soul, which are tied to astrology.
Yeah.
And Carl Jung was an astrologer. We have the Jungian archetypes and we have Jungian astrologers. And evolutionary astrology is right in line with that.
Okay.
And yes. And so it's Jung is quoted as saying, and probably wrote, but I read it somewhere, that he knew more about his clients spending 2 hours with their birth chart than it would take years in the counseling room. There are in fact psychologists, they're called humanistic psychologists, that blend astrology and psychology.
That's a good idea.
It's a fabulous idea, and that's a field of practice.
Yeah, you're right. That's brilliant. I love that. I would do that.
It is because
I mean, I would pay that in place of a traditional therapist. I would.
for sure. And so Pluto, when we talk about life's predictable phases, Pluto is the cycle of destiny. So in our 40s and in our 62-ish, it's a cycle of retrieving the soul. Pluto takes us to the dark underworld and causes us to really look at those hurts and those wounds and those pains, and we all have them.
Yeah.
It's the human condition.
Yeah.
And the ones that you have, you chose to work on in this lifetime. That's the important thing. Knowing your stars helps to relieve the victim mentality.
It really does. That it's someone else's fault that we're hurt. That it is we are deserving of suffering. I mean, all these things that we believe or we're taught, we look at astrology and see where they come from. These influences come from if we learn astrology. I'm a very, very amateur astrologer, very amateur. But for what I have studied and what other people, when they've read my chart and done readings for me in astrology and stuff, I've learned a gob ton more with that from them looking at my chart for 20 minutes or whatever
Yes.
than I would have talking to a therapist for 4 months or so,
Yes.
For real. It would have really helped. It always has. You helped me today, big time.
I'm so happy about that. That was
Yeah.
wonderful. And so Pluto is the cycle of soul retrieval. And so your journey is a spiral of becoming ever unfolding, ever magical. Life is that. And if we go through it with conscious intention to work through the energies that we came in with and accept responsibility for them.
Yeah.
Nobody gave you that.
That's right.
It's very, very powerful. And so we come in, Lisa, to soul purpose and evolution, free will.
I was wondering if you're going to hear.
The thing, what evolutionary astrology works really with 4 key points in terms of the soul's evolution.
Okay.
And it's what takes us to a different level. The South Node and the North Node. So every planet has nodes, just like Earth has, the Arctic and the Antarctic. Every planet has nodes. But the only nodes that astrology works with are the nodes of the moon.
Okay.
So when I say the South Node, it's the South Node of the moon.
Now this are Ketu and Rahu in Vedic astrology. Is that right?
What was your question?
Would this be the South Node and the North Node? Would this be Ketu and Rahu in Vedic astrology?
Don't know, but it sounds like, because Ketu is like the topper point of Kabbalah.
I don't know Kabbalah, but I'd like to.
Oh, okay.
I just know about Rahu and Ketu because whenever I've had a Vedic astrology reading, they're like, Rahu is basically your problem. And they said,
I don't know because I don't know Vedic astrology.
they say it's a point in the sky that has to do with the moon. So that's why when you said that, I was like, is that what that is? Anyway.
That's a takeaway for Jeanne. I can answer that next time. The moon is interesting because the moon is emotion. I mean, you look up at the moon, the moon is emotion, it manages the female cycle, it manages everything, right? And why we use the nodes of the moon, the one thing that transcends death and rebirth is emotion. Some people remember past lives. That's been documented. But we all carry the emotional DNA of past wounds. The past wounds are revealed in the South Node. if it was in their wounds, and when we look at the South Node, we look at the darker energies of the South Node, because if they weren't wounds, they wouldn't be in the South Node, you see? So we're looking for what are the wounds, the emotional wounds that one came here to heal. So these are the past lives, patterns, and comfort zones that we need to transcend. What I do see, and we do see, astrologers, and I've seen it with my clients too, it's absolutely uncanny. Uncanny is we repeat the South Node energies in this lifetime. And why we do that? Because it's comfort. It's like comfort food. We're comfortable there. It's what we know.
That makes sense, yeah.
Now I'm going to jump down to the North Node. The North Node is the future to be made. Remember how I said earlier that the music will play? All of the energies will play, whether you're aware of them or not. That is absolutely true, with one exception, the North Node.
Okay.
The North Node is your North Star.
Okay.
It's waiting for you to go for it. But you've got to work through everything. You've got to understand it's there. You've got to understand what it's calling you to do, and you've got to work on the energies to get there. And you'll fall back to the South Node. You know, this is the game of life. We go back and we go forward. But the North Node will never activate all on its own. But I will tell you this, absolutely, it's emotionally in you. It's your inner calling. It's there. It's like, I know I should be doing more. It's sometimes you get the courage, maybe Jupiter came along and there was this, moment of, Jupiter would be a year and a half long, opportunity. There's that time and you took that step out. So you were reaching your North Node. Uranus came along, cycle of individuality, and you got some courage and you got out there because you have that inner calling. But then you snap back to the South Node, right? You get pulled back and it's a repeating pattern again. And what I'm saying to everyone is when you know your North Node, when you know that you have a potential to go back to that South Node, you'll be less likely to do it. Maya Angelou, we love her, right? When you know better, you do better. Know your stars is the message here. And so Pluto plays big in the evolutionary story. It's the soul's deepest desires. I can look at anybody's Pluto and its position and its aspects, the whole integration of it all, and understand what the soul's deepest desires are in this lifetime, and what the karmic patterns are, and what the evolutionary transformation is calling for.
It's really
Pluto will reveal that. And evolutionary astrology focuses on this.
okay.
Right? Chiron.
You're evolving your soul in evolution.
All about the soul's evolution.
Okay.
And it's all about self-empowerment.
Yes. It sounds like it, because when you read astrology, everything you say sounds really positive. I mean, you do say you have to look at the harder stuff on this particular node aspect because that's what you're looking for. That's what's there.
Yes.
You're saying things very well. I mean, you're explaining things so succinctly. I understand it very well.
There's a high road. And that's the goal, the high road. Right?
Yes.
It doesn't make it easy. I'm not saying any of this is easy. I mean, I'm living proof of that.
Because the high road,
Think of my story.
well, if you're like the type of person who, is idealistic, it's not so hard to take the high road because you feel bad if you take the low road if you're idealistic,
Right.
So I'm lucky. I mean,
Be more optimistic about it.
yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I'm not always optimistic, but I am always idealistic in that I even if I think that person will probably, affect my life in a bad way, I will have hope that I will be able to, talk them out of it or avoid them. I have hope that there are ways to avoid that,
It reminds me of something which helps me with individuals. Everyone is just doing their stars.
You're right, everyone is. But they have a I think there is one, we kind of know. Even if we don't know what our stars are, I'll say most people don't though.
and that's my point. Most people don't. But in other words,
and they're stuck.
Everybody's doing their best.
They are.
And so if we look at individuals that way,
sure, sometimes are y'all doing your best?
I believe they are.
I'm just kidding. I'm totally.
I believe they are. And so when we get riled up by other individuals, we're going the low road.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the North knows a future to be made.
And they want us to. They want us to take that low road.
Well, there's the old saying, misery loves company.
That's so true. That's so true.
So we don't want to be somebody's company in the misery lane. And let's see, I think we've got just one more we can do. And so Pam Gregory, we choose how our music plays. Predestiny, and here we come into the conversation of destiny.
Yes, I love that.
How it's going to work out in the 3D is not destined.
Yes.
Your life is not destined. You have free will. Yes. But you have free will in the context of predestiny, meaning you chose your birth time, your birthplace, your birth country, your birth family, your birth condition. If there is a handicap, you chose it all. This is predestiny. And we come in with certain energies based on, yes, karma, all right? The universal law of cause and effect in previous lifetimes. And these boundaries, however, that we come in with, we chose, and they afford the evolution of the soul. In other words, they are there to help the soul evolve.
Okay.
It's cool?
Yeah.
Karma, we create it. I think I've said enough about that. Free will, we get to create more karma. Right? Remember that person you didn't forgive? Well, I got to come back around, right? You got to let it go. Easier said than done. But I just want to leave on this note, this slide, Lisa. Our free will choices impact not only our lives, but the world. Right? The ripple effect, think vibration, think energy. We were talking about how psychism is energy. Everything ripples. Your choices influence not only your family, but the world, your eternity.
Yeah.
For everybody.
Yeah.
And
so many people worry about dying and being forgotten, and just nothing in their life meant nothing, and near the end there or something. Sometimes they feel that way when they're young and they're trying to figure out death for themselves.
Yes. And I'd like to make one note on that is because someone asked me, well, when's a good time to have your evolutionary astrology consultation, right? To know your stars. I said the sooner the possible, right? The soonest you can.
Yeah.
Even if you're 95, and I'll tell you why. You're 95, you're going. You're going to cross over. You're just going to step into the next vibration, right? There's no death, just a different energy world. So you're going to step over there. But if you're in a mental place where you've got all of these thoughts of shoulda, coulda, woulda, or why, all of this, knowing your evolutionary astrology, having that reading, knowing your stars is very empowering. Even at that point, it can be impactful.
It can be at that age. We can look back at your life. If at that age, I have always been looking back at my life, like, I hated my life. And someone came to me if you came to me and gave me one of these types of readings, I would look back at my life totally differently. And I would have a different attitude about my whole life. And I keep thinking about my life.
And so for me, I'm going to cross over, and I am really so much more settled with everything I've gotten into with metaphysics and everything, Lisa, that it's just going to be a beautiful transition. So I'm going to turn over to you. I'm going to stop share.
You want to stop share? Yeah, like we can look at your face. I forgot what you look like. Oh, that's you.
Oh,
really?
There I am.
It's not watchers. Doesn't she have such a great beautiful thing going on? It's like,
thank you. I love the
stars. It's just so beautiful. I love it.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you for that opportunity.
I want to say thank you for doing that. I learned so much, and you have a way. I mean, you just wrap that astrology stuff up, as to what it means, what it is. For like the listeners, I think they're going to come away from this. We've never had a podcast where someone really broke it down. So like you just did. I did one podcast kind of like that, just breaking it down a little bit. It was like a 20-minute podcast just for the natal chart, I think. And it wasn't very good. But what you just did will really help the listeners and the watchers, I think, understand a lot about astrology that they didn't.
Very pleased to hear that. That's my goal.
So. And hey, where can listeners find you? Where do you have a website?
Oh, yes. So let me just do this part.
Okay.
Just by way of visual.
Okay, I love it.
So people can find me at my website, JeanneComeau.com. And there you'll find a link at the top to my astrology page. You can also look at other things as well. I have quite an active blog section, and please do sign up for my newsletter every month. That goes out, and it's got great insights into soul empowerment and astrology, all good things.
And this is really cool, listeners. You can't see this, but she has on her card a little hermit from the tarot. It looks like the hermit from the tarot.
It is the hermit from the tarot.
Yeah, I love
it.
Love
it is. That's actually my numerology number. So I'm the hermit. Yeah.
It's 3, I think. So I'm the Empress. I get the 3. So I think that was how one of them did. Yeah. I think that.
Cool. So I'd be delighted for, anybody, and, there's a simple contact me form. If you have any questions about astrology, just contact me. And from my website, you'll be able to connect over to my YouTube channel, where I'm starting to launch Know Your Stars podcasts every, 10 minutes a week, where I'm going to be talking all about how astrology works.
Where are you going to be? Where is it going to be?
It'll be on YouTube.
Ooh, I'm following that right away.
Yes,
I'll let you know when that goes out, and I'm going to be watching that.
Wonderful.
I love your style of astrology, and I already watched Pam Q. May as well watch you too.
Oh yeah, she's wonderful.
Yeah, I would love watching you. I'm so excited. I was going to ask you if you do something like that since you watch.
I do, and there are videos out there now. In fact, this video that I just went through, I presented for the Labyrinth Society, so you'll be able to watch the whole thing there. And I just presented for the American Society. The American Dowsers Society, second time, and that's being published tomorrow.
Oh my gosh, that's so wonderful. And this should be out tomorrow too, or tonight.
Oh, wonderful.
It's the September...
Today is September 23rd.
Right there.
Yes, we just came into the fall equinox.
Your other one will be published tomorrow, 24th.
Yes.
And this one will be published when you listen to it.
Wonderful.
Hopefully today. I think I'll finish it today. Hopefully.
Lisa, this has been delightful. I'm happy to come back at any time and talk all things astrology.
Once your podcast, once you've got that going on and stuff on YouTube, I would love for you to come back and advertise for that if you wanted to.
Okay, I'd be delighted to. And
I'd also like to thank my sponsor, Everclear, at this point. Everclear is an advice app and website where you can get advice from psychics and empaths so you can get the clarity you need to create the life you deserve. And I am an advisor on Everclear. Everclear is a website as everclear.com. And then in the app stores, the Apple Store and the Google Play Store, it is Everclear Advice App. So that's where you get those places. And I am Lisa Rusczk on there. And every advisor there is wonderful. So you've probably listened to a lot of them if you listen to the podcast. And lastly, Jeannie, I want to ask advice. Let's see. Advice. Young astrologers. Like you said, the Gen Z, there's a lot of astrologers in Gen Z. Say there's a Gen Z astrologer who really has a new idea about astrology and likes the evolutionary astrology. Maybe they like this. They already know about it and they're studying it on their own. But they're shy about, because being an astrologer, just stepping out and saying, I'm an astrologer is a hard thing to do, I think. But
it is.
And help it if you are one, right?
It is. It's why it took me, many decades to do it.
Yeah.
But it's gaining more favor now. And so what advice would I lend to them? Think beyond the fear that your ego wants you to fear. And think about what is it, 8.5 or 6.5 billion people on the planet that need to know their stars.
No.
I can't read for all of them.
I love it. And I hope my friend Joni just heard that, because she's actually starting to implement astrology. She's been on a podcast a lot.
See, it's not about us.
Yes, it's not.
It's about the clients and their empowerment.
You're right, it is. Thank you so much. It's beautiful. And thank you, listeners and watchers. I love you. And do you love the listeners and the watchers, Jeannie?
Oh, absolutely. I love all people.
Good. I love all people. I'm curious. I kind of like cooking their brains. And I want to know everything. They're just interesting and fascinating. All of you.
You know what's interesting? I love all people. We are all one. So if I go to my metaphysical background here, we're all one. We're all part of the whole.
Yeah. So
And it only works if we're all working.
Yeah.
We're each an individual pixel in that picture.
Yeah.
We've got to look at everybody that way.
I like that.
With love and compassion. And so I love everybody.
I love everybody too, especially the listeners and watchers.
Yes, especially the listeners.
And every nerd. And thank you so much again.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
I'm wherever you may be. Peace out.
Bye-bye now. Bye, Lisa.